Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Paranormal Karen. I'm so excited about my guest today. We're going to talk about lucid dreaming. Now, we've talked about dream analysis. This is something very different, and I'm thrilled. I have just met Robert. I was trying to get the last name right. I got the first name wrong. Robert Waggoner, right?
Perfect. Thank you, Karen.
So I'm getting obsessed with your books. The first one, Lucid Dreaming, The Gateway to Innerself, and Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. That's the one I'm into right now, which, by the way, folks, they're all on Audible because, you know, that's the way I take in my books. Robert, welcome to the program.
You know, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Dreams are perhaps one of the greatest topics. I remember when I was a kid, I did read a quote, though, that someone said, nothing is more boring than listening to someone else's dream. And now, as an adult in the paranormal, nothing is more interesting. So tell me, how did you get onto this topic of lucid dreaming? Well, I had a very active dream life as a child. Occasionally, I would have precognitive dreams. Sometimes I'd have dreams where like I remember one time a meadowlark landed on my chest, and as it sang its song, I understood its song and began to sing its song with the meadowlark, if you can imagine that. So I just had extraordinary dreams as a kid. But the way I got into lucid dreaming, so this was way back when I was in high school. I was a junior in high school. I was reading Carlos Castaneda's book, Journey to Ixtlan. And so Carlos Castaneda was a UCLA graduate student in anthropology, and he decided to study psychoactive plants like peyote and mescaline. So he went down to southern Arizona, and he found a shaman to explain this kind of stuff to him. So I'm reading this book, and there's a part where his shaman, Don Juan, tells him to find his hands in the dream state and realize he's dreaming. And I thought, what? You can do that? And so each night before I'd go to sleep, I'd just look at my hands while telling myself, tonight my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. On the third night of doing this, I'm walking through my high school hallway, and boom, my hands pop right in front of my face. And I realize, oh my God, this is a dream. And it was so incredible to realize that those football players, they're actually dream figures. And this wall that feels so cool and nubby, just like it should, it's really dream stuff. It's a creation of my mind. And so I went on and had an incredible lucid dream. And after that, I was just hooked.
Wow. This is how old I am. When you said a meadowlark landed on your chest, I thought of the Globetrotters. And I was like, well, it's a dream that could happen. And it's funny, the author of the Carlos, I'm sorry, the last name,
Castaneda.
I just realized that's one of my Tinder dates. Obviously stole that name. So a lot going on. I love that tip about look at your hands. Now, do you think that is a thing? Like if you see your hands in a dream, you know you're dreaming, or was that like a trigger so that once you were in the dream, you knew to look at your hands? It was like your signal.
Right. It's like a trigger. So it's kind of like that guy, Ivan Pavlov. He would ring a bell every time he would feed the dogs, and he'd keep doing that over and over for a week. And then he could ring a bell and the dogs would just salivate. And so that's what they call in psychology a conditioned response. You have a stimulus and you have a response. And so my stimulus was the sight of my hands, and my response is, oh, my hands, this is a dream. So that's how I did it.
Wow. This is, you'll get used to, I jump off topic and then get back on. I wondered if it was like a perception, because it's funny when I took a parapsychology class, and we talk about how sometimes ghosts just appear half of them. You see the top half. And the professor's description was, well, do you really think of yourself from the top up, or do you look at your shoes if you picture yourself in your mind? And I thought, wow, that's a really interesting concept. The big one in lucid dreams, my favorite, is flying.
Right.
Now this is what I thought. Because for a while I had a long time where I really was a lucid dreaming, and I would just fly. I would fly through things. I would fly wherever I want. I would fly to meet whoever I wanted, and I had control over it. I think for like a year. It's supposed to free you in your regular life, right?
Well, I think flying just in and of itself is just an example or a symbol of utter freedom. And when you become consciously aware in the dream, you know it's a dream, you're having a lucid dream, then you can fly like wild. And so you can fly upside down, you can fly being pulled by your heart, you can fly backwards. It's truly a phenomenal feeling.
It is. And then you want to go back to sleep right away because it feels that good.
Right.
Now, when you so you learned how to lucid dream, and then what was the next step? Just research, finding other people. Where did it go from there?
So the interesting thing is that the scientific evidence for lucid dreaming did not appear until 1980. And so I taught myself this little technique in 1975. So I spent 5 years learning all the rules and the principles. And then I was so happy in 1980 when the scientific evidence emerged, because now I could talk to people about it. Up until that point, I'd start to tell people, oh, I'm becoming consciously aware in the dream state that I'm dreaming. And they say, you can't do that at all. So that was really great. But I learned the principles first, and then I realized that there's really an ability to explore and do personal experiments. And so that was the next phase.
So personal experiments, as in, tell us more about that.
Yeah. So for example, you could compare and contrast the senses in lucid dreaming compared to waking reality. So by that, I'd say in a lucid dream, you can go to the refrigerator and grab an apple. Does a lucid dream apple taste like a physical apple does? And so you can do all these comparison and contrast of those kind of things. Also, you learn how to interact with dream figures. I used to go around and I'd tell a dream figure, hey, do you know I'm dreaming you? And they always look so disappointed, like I was a total, complete idiot. And I mentioned in my book how some lucid dreamers would go up to a dream figure and they'd say, do you know I'm dreaming you? And the dream figure would reply, how do you know I'm not dreaming you?
Wow. Okay.
And then the lucid dreamer would say, well, look, I can fly. And then the dream figure would say, well, look, I can fly too. And they'd try to one up each other. And by the end of that lucid dream, they couldn't figure out whose dream it was because they were both equally talented.
Okay, so now when you say dream figure, would this be someone you don't recognize, or would it be someone you do?
It'd be someone that you don't recognize. It would just be a random dream figure out there. But I do want to tell you, because you kind of brought it up, is that oftentimes people become lucidly aware when they meet a deceased relative in the dream state. And they'll see the deceased relative and they'll think, wait a second, grandma's been dead 7 years now. Oh, I must be dreaming. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to explore the nature of their reality, because in a lucid dream, you can ask them questions. And sometimes lucid dreamers get information that's outside of their knowing, that they get it from their deceased relatives. So I have some great stories about that.
All right, we want to hear those. We're going to come back to those. I'm keeping notes as I should someday sell my notes. They're just scribbles. I'll sell them as art. The people in dreams, like I read tarot, and Jung always said that there's these, that like the major arcana, they are the archetypes that we meet, or dream figures. But I wonder if that's the random people, or has there been any way to prove that you're in someone else's dream?
Well, so in my books, I tell people that from all my lucid dream experiences, and I've had more than 1,000 lucid dreams, that dream figures vary. And so some dream figures seem very conscious and alert. Other dream figures, they're hollow, they're empty. You ask them a question and they don't even respond. Or you ask them a question and they respond with gibberish. Whereas another dream figure will sit there and explain all the dream symbols in your lucid dream. And so what you realize really quickly is that dream figures vary. And so some have more energy, and some are, occasionally people have recurring dream figures that reappear. So it's a very complex area. But one thing that I always encourage people to do, especially like if they have a recurring nightmare. So people use lucid dreaming to end recurring nightmares, because if you're being chased and all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, this is that chase nightmare, and you realize that you're dreaming, you can turn and face whatever's chasing you, and you can ask it, who are you? What do you represent? I remember a young guy read my book, and then he did that in a recurring nightmare. He turned and he faced the character and demanded, who are you? And it replied, I am your fear of boredom. And when the guy woke up, he realized that he had a fear of boredom and that he was constantly doing stuff all the time. And he thought, oh my God. And so you can get really insight. But again, dream figures vary. All dream figures are not created equal.
That's funny. That's the worst superhero villain ever. Fear of boredom.
You know, there's another woman who, so she's a woman from Holland. She told me her lucid dream that she was lucidly aware. And then she realized that, what happened? A Nazi soldier was following her. And all of a sudden she hid under a bridge, and then she became lucidly aware because she realized that World War II was over. And so now that she was lucidly aware, she stepped out from under the bridge and she asked the dream figure, who are you? What do you represent? And it replied, I represent your fear of the unknown.
Wow.
And she realized that every time she was being faced with something in her life when she didn't know if she would do well or not, when she was being faced with the unknown, that's when she'd have this dream. And after that, she began to screw up her courage. And whenever she got that kind of fear of the unknown, she'd say, nope, I'm not going to let that fear guide me anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Wow. You know, again, a weird offshoot, but sometimes I work with, people that have stuff stuck in their home and, dark stuff. And I heard one of my friends was channeling, and she literally said that demons, which I do believe are entities that are their own thing, are actually a manifestation of all of our dark sides that we will not face. So everybody that won't kind of face that they have that shadow side is
right.
Sort of becoming an energy, its own entity, and that they're locked in this 3D world until we figure that out, which this makes what a wonderful way to uncover your dark side or your fears, both together, I think.
You know, Karen, about 10 years ago, my mother-in-law had moved to an assisted care facility, and she was having a little bit of dementia, but my wife's oldest sister lived a block away and would come and see her every day. Anyway, one night I'm having a dream and I hear a woman calling my voice, Robert, Robert, Robert. And I'm walking around this neighborhood looking, where's this voice coming from? And finally I get to a house where it's coming from, and I realize, oh my goodness, this is Nona. This is my mother-in-law. And at that moment, I become lucidly aware because I know she's in Indiana. So I walk into the house, and now I realize the voice is coming from the basement. And so for me, symbolically, the basement oftentimes has to do with kind of base things like anger and feelings and
shadow
unresolved stuff.
Yeah,
right.
Shadow.
And so I walk down in lucidly aware into this basement. It's very dark. And when I get to the bottom step, from the left comes this figure composed of dark energy. But I just put up my hand. I'm lucidly aware, and I say, don't bother. You can't scare me because I know what's going on here. And I realized that I was interacting with all the fears and regrets and misgivings and concerns that my mother-in-law had for all these 86 years and never processed. Wow. And so when I woke up, I told my wife, I said, you and your two sisters have to get together with your mom and have her express all of these fears and regrets and everything so that she can, pass away in peace. My wife thought it was kind of crazy, this dream. But she called up her sister, and her sister said, "Oh my God." She goes, "In waking life, mom is calling for her deceased parents, her deceased brothers and sisters, and your husband, Robert." And I didn't know that because, I mean, they're three states away. Anyway, my wife and her two sisters got together with their mom. Their mom became totally very lucid and asked forgiveness for certain things that had happened in the family and expressed her regret about other things. My wife told me it was the most incredibly honest and heartfelt hour or two that they had ever spent. And she was so happy that her mom could get this off of her chest before she passed away. So I agree with your friend that a lot of times what people kind of think is kind of bad or demonic, it's actually the energy of all this kind of negative stuff that we've been holding on to. And we kind of project it out from ourselves so we can deal with it. But a lot of times we become afraid of it instead of recognizing it for what it is.
Wow. You know what else is interesting in that is, do you think the dream space, or like where you went, like for lack of a better term, do you think it's a place? Like I've always said, imagination is a place. It's not a thing. I feel like it's a place where you go and collect ideas. Do you think we're all actually sort of, maybe it's like I don't know, for lack of a better metaphor, a hotel, and we're each in our own room, but it's a place, you know? We can go into someone else's room by mistake.
Well, I think it's kind of a sense of a collective unconscious where you might pick up information and emotions that loved ones, people who are close to you have. Or something like that. So I don't know. It's kind of like we're all each our unique individual self, but when we start to sing, our voices all blend together, and so I kind of think of dreaming as kind of the blending of all the consciousness. And as long as you focus on the right person, you'll pick up their little feed.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Collective consciousness. I don't know where the hotel metaphor came, but I was going for collective consciousness as a place. Or, you know what, too, that could have been psychically you were picking up on her, you know what I mean, her feelings and regrets, or it could have been a psychic message, which, by the way, when we come back, let's hit precognitive dreams just for a second. So hold on, folks. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, let me tell you about my friend Elaine Hathaway. She's not just an incredible tarot reader, I know, because I had a reading. She also does curse breaking, healing and prosperity magic, and the removal of dark entities. I had a client that was constantly being bothered by a dark entity. I sent her to Elaine, and man, she cleared that situation up right away. It was so impressive. She does so many things. Please check out her website at therisingmoon.com. There you can click on her YouTube channel and take a look at her, because you're going to feel like curse breaking and the removal of dark entities. This is a little old woman sitting in the corner of the room with a hood and a cape. No, she is the loveliest person. She does so many things other than tarot. Please check out her website at therisingmoon.com. You can also hear her October 23rd on this show at therisingmoon.com. All your paranormal and metaphysical needs will be met there. Okay, here we go. So, Robert, you said you've had some precog dreams. First of all, I'd love to hear what they are. And also, how is there a different feeling with a precognitive dream than a lucid dream for you?
Those are great questions. So one thing that I recognized early on, oftentimes my precognitive dreams had a symbol in them that made it obvious. So I don't know if you remember the old episodes of The Twilight Zone. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'd have a clock face and the clock would start spinning around wildly. Well, that's what would happen when I'd have precognitive dreams. I'd see a clock face up in the corner and it would start spinning wildly. And I'd go, oh, we're moving forward in time. Wow. And then, so there were certain things that would point it out. Other times, I would notice what was going on. Like, for example, my wife and I, we were trying to sell our first house. And for whatever reason, the thing wouldn't sell. And other houses around us were selling, within a few weeks, and ours was sitting there for months. So one night I went to sleep, and I was standing in the front yard, and I could see the real estate sign for our house. And then as I heard the nearby football arena erupt in cheers, I saw the sold sign appear. And when I woke up, I told my wife, it was probably June, and I said, our house is not going to sell until football season. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, I saw it in a dream. And then when football season comes, suddenly this family comes and they just love the house and seal the deal. So sometimes you have to realize the symbolism. Sometimes you get the information literally and sometimes you don't. The one thing that really got me, so you have to realize that I keep a dream journal and I have file drawers of dream journals. But in about the 6 months before 9/11 occurred, all of a sudden, my normally very nice, placid dreams and lucid dreams, I began to have these dreams that were just off the charts. Like a scene from Survivor, the first one started. I wrote down in my dream journal, the two of us in France, the start of a war event. And the war event was a skyscraper collapsing. Oh. And in my dream, it was like almost cartoonish or something. But when 9/11 finally happened, my wife and I were in France that day, and all that went on. But I was having these dreams. It got so bad that it was like the weight of the world was on my shoulder at the end of August. I knew something incredible was coming, something horrible was coming. And my wife asked me, what do we do? And I said, it doesn't really involve us. That's the thing. But anyway, so people pick up those kind of things, and it's hard to understand exactly why you pick up certain things, but that's the nature of precognitive dreams.
Right. There was actually on the psychic side of 9/11. If you hear traffic, folks, my listeners are used to my busy street. If you hear weird traffic in the background, for about 2 weeks before 9/11, they said the therapists in New York City were getting calls from clients all over that kept going, I don't know what's going on. I'm falling apart. I think that was such a precognitive or such an event on a timeline that it actually affected people beforehand, like having dreams like that. That's pretty fascinating. You really could make a lot of money with realtors if they just sent you pictures of the houses and you took a nap and told them when that was going to sell. I know a lot of realtors that would like that. I love the spinning clock though. That's so clear.
Right.
I thought you were going to say Meadowlark Lemon. Hello, I'll be here all week, ladies and gentlemen. So 9/11, it's funny because this is coming out. Everyone knows I tape early. This is coming out, I think, in January. Perfect time for it because we are all getting creepies about 2021. We're getting right around January and stuff like that. Now, I wonder if you can, like with your hands, you can ask to have a precog dream. Have you ever tried to have one or tried to have one about a future event?
Well, everyone can always give dream incubation a try, and you focus on a statement and ask to have a dream that'll give you some clarity or insight about how to move forward. But one of the interesting things, though, is here's an example. I got interviewed by a guy who was a great lucid dreamer. And I asked him if he could tell me about how he got started with lucid dreaming. And this is what happened to this guy. So his mom developed cancer when he was in high school, and then his mom passed away. And by that time, his parents had already divorced. And he said he just grew up as an angry young guy. He was angry at God, angry at, everybody. He was just angry. And so he didn't go to college. Instead, he said he became a bouncer at a bar, because that way he could beat up the people who wouldn't leave the bar at 2:00 in the morning or whatever.
That's good thinking.
And so anyway, but about 2 years into being a bouncer, one day he fell asleep and suddenly he saw his mom. And at that moment, he became lucidly aware because, oh my God, here's my mom. And his mom came and told him things and then suggested to him, she goes, look, I left something for you with our old family friends. And she gave the young guy, her son, the name. And he goes, you've got to get what I've left for you. And so he said when he woke up from the lucid dream, he wondered, was this really a visitation dream of his mom? He looked up his the old family friends, called him up, and they were thunderstruck. They said, we've been trying to find you for 2 years now, but it's like you fell off the face of the earth. And yes, your mom had left something with us. And he said he went to their home. He got what his mom had left him. But he said the thing that really affected him was he realized that if he could receive information like that in a lucid dream, or if he could get information outside of his own knowing, then there must be something more to life than just all the pain and suffering. There must be something deeper. And he said, as soon as that happened, he quit being a bouncer in a bar. He went to college. He started software companies and made a lot of money and got his life together. So that's kind of how beautiful it can be and how sometimes getting information outside of your own knowing can totally change your life.
I couldn't agree with that more. I find that with psychics or people that have psychic experiences or they see ghosts, it's just like that's the door opening to the other world, which I think we just had an EVP. I'll listen to that after in the sometimes when you're recording, you get voices, especially when the topic is like this. And I hope the people don't hear the tapping outside. For some reason, my neighbor's constantly fixing the roof, 24/7 fixing the roofs up here, a little tapping. But I fly by the seat of my pants with this. So Robert, when do you have a natural propensity towards telepathy? Or you must, first of all, be very intuitive, because I think these are sort of the same mechanisms that are working in the lucid dreaming that work in conscious life. But have you had many experiences with telepathy or sort of knowing what other people are thinking?
I think that's something that just naturally starts to get better developed as you pay attention to your dreams, because oftentimes in our dreams, we're getting intuitions and impulses for our greater growth and fulfillment. And so we get them at night in the dream state, but also during the day, we also get those intuitions and impulses. And what I've learned is to stop resisting them and listen to them. And if they seem to make some sort of sense or seem to be relatively harmless, just go for it. And I've had some extraordinary, what you'd call telepathic experiences.
Wow. And psychic ones, I'm sure, during the day too.
Yep.
Oh, hang on one second.
That's fine.
Okay, folks. So you heard me say, hold that. That's because it's not just the guy with the roof. My apartment really wants me to leave. And so it keeps breaking things. And the workman came, and Courage doesn't like the workman. So there was a little spell of barking that you may hear one more minute of. This is such an interesting topic on... this is a weird one that comes up, and I see the commercial, and I think that it's where it is the collective consciousness in a weird way. People that... Courage! Courage. All right. Hang on. He's going in the other room. All right, Robert. Now nothing is going to stop us.
Okay.
The dog is in the bedroom. The workman is outside. The roof is coming down. So people that have Parkinson's see people have what are they, hallucinations. And I always feel like, because we actually had a friend that had Parkinson's, and he would say, he was at my parents' old age home, and he was not, he didn't have dementia at all. And he said, there's a lot of people in my room. So he was seeing them. And I always go back to this story of a guy I knew that worked in a mental hospital. And one day he walks in to the ward, and there in the corner is standing a guy that does not belong there, that shouldn't be there, that he doesn't know. And he looks at him and looks away, looks back, and he's gone. And one of the schizophrenic patients says, you saw him too. I know you saw him.
Wow.
So I always wonder, I don't know that hallucinations are things that are made up or people seeing through other dimensions. And I wonder if like people that have Parkinson's and they have those hallucinations, or people like schizophrenics are sort of between the dream state, or their brain is still in that alpha wave or whatever it would be in. So it's sort of their worlds are blending. Have you ever had anything like that, or does that make sense?
Well, I remember one time I was part of a online dream group, a dream conference, and one of the people in the conference was a woman, a Native American woman, and she said that in her tribal view, mental illness didn't exist. That instead, the person who appeared mentally ill was just actually focusing on a different dimension. And what they needed to be taught to do was to focus on the physical reality dimension and not another dimension. So it wasn't that the hallucination wasn't real. It was just occurring in a different dimension. And because of that, they had a whole different way of kind of interacting with somebody who, by traditional things, would say was mentally ill. They just got him to focus more and more on this reality, let go of that other focus, and then the hallucinations and the illness started to get taken care of better. But I agree with you. I think that, some modern physicists talk about the many worlds theory or string theory, where there might be like 11 other probabilities occurring at any given time. And this is just one of the probabilities. And there's other probabilities that could have happened if we would have done something else, like let courage keep barking and and let the workers keep hammering. So anyway, in that dimension, so for us, that's kind of a ghostly dimension now, but if you let your focus drift over to it, then all of a sudden, you see all of that. So again, it's a kind of an issue of focus. Some people are able to kind of let their focus go, and maybe by having Parkinson's or some other ailment, it just might be easier or more natural.
That's interesting because, I read tarot cards during the days, and now that I know there's 11 probabilities, holy cow, now I feel pressure. I don't know if I'm giving anyone the right probability. It is interesting too, and I bet that we make schizophrenia worse in our culture by it's like when I always feel bad for mediums that didn't grow up in families that saw spirits, because you're looking at someone and everyone is telling you you're crazy or you're possessed. And that has to be like with schizophrenics. We're literally making it worse.
Yeah. Yeah, you really do wonder. And I do hope sometime that we'll get to a better view of it. But that's one thing that I like about lucid dreaming. When you realize within a dream that you're dreaming, then you have the ability to explore the unconscious mind, the dreaming mind. And it's really fascinating. Like I said, you see that dream figures are different. If you give them more energy, they become more empowered. And so if you have a long-term issue with a lot of energy, then it might express itself in a dream figure with a lot of energy and a lot of awareness. But if it's a short-term issue with hardly any energy, then it might be a dream figure who can barely speak. And so you start to see, this is how the mind creates things. And if that's how it creates it in the unconscious, then people, who are having hallucinations and whatever, it kind of helps understand how they might be creating some of this, or how they might be focusing or tuning into it.
I love that description of the dream characters, because it actually is like you're the guest star, I'm the star. This guy over here is an extra. But it's funny that it gives I've never heard it said that way, and now I'm sure I'll see it in my dreams. But that dimension of where they can't speak, people can't speak, or I can't remember that. But that's very, very interesting. Now, a long shot, I had a dream this was one of the, I don't remember my dreams right now. I have to work on that. But I also think after a whole day of tarot reading, sometimes I'm having other people's dreams, or there's a lot going on there. So this was when I first started meditating. I had a dream where I talked into a seashell, rang like a phone, and I answered it, and it was God. And he asked me something. He said, "What do you want to ask me?" And I asked him something. And then he said, "Are you sure? I think you really wanted to ask me something." And I said, "Yes. Is it fate, or are our lives fate, or are they already, planned out? Because if it's already planned out, I'm working really hard and I'd like to watch more TV." And I remember that God laughed and laughed and laughed. I heard this wonderful laughter. And then his answer was, "Well, you decide. I'll let you decide, Karen." And I was like, oh, that's such a God answer. Just not nailing it down at all. What do you think that is when people hear God? Or, I mean, would that be my higher power, my higher self? Or it could be God. I doubt it, though.
It's interesting oftentimes how sometimes phone calls in the dream state oftentimes are either with those who have passed over, or their connections with our larger awareness, or maybe a spiritual being, or God, or something like that. So I find that really interesting that it happens in a phone call in your dream state. But the beautiful thing is the response, because by God letting you decide, in many respects, he's what you're kind of hearing is, you make of your life what you make of it, and you'll make of my answer what you make of it. Right. And so it kind of shows that you're not predestined, that you kind of interpret life as you go along, just like you interpret your tarot cards.
Yes, I guess that's right. But all right, hold on one second, Robert. This is fascinating. We'll be right back, folks. Hey, everybody. Paranormal Karen here, doing an ad for myself because I can't remember when I tape my podcast to say these things. First of all, if you need a holiday gift, you can get a gift certificate for a 30 or 60-minute tarot reading on my website, karenrontowski.com. Also, I'm very, very happy my new CD called Psychic Stand-Up Valentine's Edition is now available everywhere. You can get it on Amazon Music. You can get it on Apple iTunes. You can get it on Spotify, and it's even got a free YouTube channel where you can listen to it there. But it's the show I want to do on the road. It's 45 minutes of me improvising and reading tarot in front of a live audience. It is fun. It is funny. It is real tarot, real funny. All right, everybody. Back to the show. Okay, folks, we're back. We got last 20 minutes. We're going to beat the workman coming back to fix the water in my apartment. I told him noon. We got exactly 20 minutes. I had a lady on that was talking about dream interpretation, and she was great. And she had, now we got a helicopter. This is when you know you're onto something, Robert. Have you ever heard that? When you're interrupting, when the matrix is going crazy, it means we're all onto something here. It also means I should move. She did this wonderful, she was so lovely and fun, and did this great whole episode on dream interpretation. And then I told her about lucid dreaming, and she goes, "No, you're missing all the messages." And I was like, okay. I didn't even argue with it. But I think lucid dreaming helps you get the messages faster, don't you?
Right. I think it does. And so in my books, the metaphor I use is that the sailor does not control the sea, and neither does the lucid dreamer control the dream. In a lucid dream, you're more aware. So now you can relate to the dream with greater awareness. So you can ask a dream figure, "Who are you? What do you represent?" and learn from it. Otherwise, you have a dream, you wake up, and then you try to figure out, well, gosh, there was that dream figure doing X, Y, Z. He must represent, I don't know, this, that, or the other. But in a lucid dream, you can just ask, and sometimes a dream figure will even explain all the dream symbols. So again, it's one of those incredible things. There's a lot of people who lucid dream, but what I try to get across in my book is there's extraordinary things you can do with lucid dreaming for emotional healing, for physical healing, for accessing your larger awareness, for accessing creativity. And when you know it's a dream, you can even do spiritual practices like meditate in a lucid dream. So it's a wide open platform. And some people in the dream world just don't quite understand that.
Yeah, it's probably a greater exchange of information faster.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And also it's lucid dreaming is connected to spiritual traditions. And there's what they call Buddhist dream yoga that uses lucid dreaming. And people have been talking about Buddhist dream yoga for 2,000 years. And Sufism, they use lucid dreaming to kind of get closer to the divine. In Taoism, they do. And in Native American traditions, they use lucid dreaming as a way to connect to the divine. So it's a deep, vast field, but a lot of people that they just think it means control, but it doesn't really. It's more aware relating, and that's how people should use it.
Right, and when you like look at Buddhist, I've never heard of Buddhist dream yoga. Is that literally? I mean, I know that here in the States we think of yoga as an exercise, which I love to do, but it's more of a mind exercise than at that point, I'm sure.
Right. So what you would do in Buddhist dream yoga, you'd become consciously aware in the dream. So that's the lucid dream. You'd realize you're dreaming, and then they would have you kind of follow practices connected to Buddhist philosophy. So where you basically come to understand the nature of the mind and how you're co-creating your perceived experience. And I'll tell you, it's a really powerful thing because in many respects, it'll kind of show you the law of attraction. In the waking world, we kind of accept the law of attraction that if you focus on something, if you think about it, then you'll call it into your life, you'll attract it. But I'll tell you, in a lucid dream, if you want to be surrounded by gold coins and millions of dollars, if you just think about it, then pretty much instantly it appears. You realize that your belief and expectations draw things to you. And when you wake up with that information in the waking world, you really realize that you have to look at your mind and what you're telling yourself, because your beliefs and expectations and emotions really do attract to you what you then later experience. So Buddhist dream yoga and some of these things, just you use lucid dreaming to explore certain philosophical beliefs, and you see that these beliefs, these spiritual ideas, have truth behind them, and then you can begin to use them in your waking life.
Wow, that I know a lot of people that because everybody probably that listens to this is pretty woo, pretty paranormal, and I know they have repetitive dreams, speaking with ex-boyfriends, girlfriends, people like that, and I do think when you have that much focus, you will bring that to you or bring that person back to you. But that's amazing. Before we get a little bit into this book that I'm into now, the one, the tips, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. So nightmares, kind of, you wrapped it up as in it's usually a part of ourselves or that we don't want to face or a fear. Have you ever heard of a nightmare where you're like, whoa, something else was in there, like something creepy? Like, who's in your apartment at night that you're dreaming that? Anything like that would be a little more frightening?
Well, so sometimes you might have a telepathic kind of nightmare dream. I remember one night I kept dreaming that I thought our family business was on fire. But in the dream, I noticed, well, wait a second, our family business, we're inside a steel building, and this has a wood structure and all that. But I woke up, drank some water, went back to sleep, and had the same dream again. And whenever I have the same dream in succession, I know that something's going on. Anyway, in the morning, I called up my family and I said, "Is our family business okay?" And they said, "Sure, it's okay. What's your problem?" But then when I got that day's paper in this community I live in, that night while I was sleeping, a nearby lumber facility that was owned by a family business, that their building was burning down. And the firemen had been working on it all night. But so I worked for a family business at the time, but I just happened to dream of a family business that at that moment in this town I lived in, their building was on fire and actually burnt to the ground. Wow. So sometimes you'll have a nightmare experience and you're just picking up kind of telepathic information or something like that.
Right.
But
it was fire adjacent. It was business adjacent.
Right. But again, normally what I'd encourage people, if you do have a nightmare, ask yourself in waking life, is there something that I don't want to see? Is there something that I don't want to face? Is there something that's chasing me that I don't want to look at? Because sometimes when you ask yourself those questions, then you'll realize, oh, now I get why I'm having that nightmare about this, that, or the other. It's this issue that I don't want to face in waking life. Right. And then you'll realize that these dreams are coming for your wholeness and healing. And if you pay attention to them, then you can profit from them.
Right. Are you ever tired? Do you ever not get a good night's sleep?
The great thing is when you wake up from a lucid dream, normally the next day you feel extra great. You feel like you won the lottery or whatever. You just feel super. And so for most of us lucid dreamers, we might have 2 to 4 lucid dreams a month. And so, I mean, the average person has probably 150 dreams a month. And so if you just have 2 or 4, it's not like it's taking over your life.
Right. You can, sometimes I have had those nights where, like I say, I don't know if they're other people's dreams or what, but something will happen where I actually wake up tired. Like, I wonder what that's about.
I remember once I was giving a talk in San Francisco on lucid dreaming, and at the end of the talk, now it was about 11:30 at night, and I was just totally exhausted because I was on Midwest time, and for me it was like 1:30 in the morning. Anyway, at the end of the line of people who wanted to ask me a personal question, here's this woman, and I know she's from a foreign country, so she comes up to me and she says, I haven't had a dream in 3 years. And I said, okay, what happened to you 3 years ago? She goes, my husband died all of a sudden. And I said, well, you probably shut down your dreaming just because you couldn't deal with the pain of losing your husband. And she goes, no, it's not that. It's something else. And I said, look, lady, tonight I'm gonna dream about what your issue is, about why your dreams won't restart, because I know you're dreaming. And give me your email and I'll tell you what the dreams are, and we'll get this figured out. So before I went to sleep, I told myself, okay, self, I'm going to dream why this woman isn't recalling her dreams. That night, the first dream, it was in black and white. It was of the 4 countries the woman had lived in before making it to the U.S. And I saw all the trials and tribulations she had to go through. And when I woke up, I thought, whoa, this is one tough cookie, this lady. Then I fell asleep, and the next dream was this. In my right hand, I had a leash, and I was being pulled by a jaguar. In my left hand, I had another leash, and I was being pulled by is either a whale or a porpoise. And for the rest of the dream, these 2 power animals pulled me all over. And when I woke up, I was bloody exhausted. I had never been pulled around by power animals for an entire dream. I wrote the woman and I said, these power animals suggest to me that you're being called on a deep shamanic spiritual journey and you're resisting it. And that's why you're not recalling your dreams. And she wrote me back and goes, oh my God, I can't believe this. I lived in 4 countries before I made it to the US. And oh my God, there's this shaman. He's a jaguar shaman. And he's telling me that I'm a jaguar woman, but I don't know whether or not to believe him. And oh my God.
Wow.
Anyway, then the day after that, she writes me and says, oh, my dreams returned.
Wow.
So when she accepted that she was being called on this deep spiritual journey, she allowed herself to remember her dreams. But so again, sometimes there can be some interesting cases. I was so glad that I was able to help this woman too.
Wow. I thought you were going to say you had a dream that she killed him.
Now, but that would make a good
good novel.
good novel.
Right, that's right. That's funny. I have to think because first of all, I feel like right now my life is like the life of Riley, or it's just so perfect. But I don't remember my dreams. I have to look into this. I really think this is a business, Robert, for you to dream about other people. What a great that's a novel right there. It's so funny. I just picked up writing. I think I want to write a TV show or a writer, but be a writer. But it's funny because my best friend's an animal communicator. My other friend is a curse breaker. My other friend cleans your matrix. And now I got another character. He dreams for you. And I'll name him Robert.
Well, thank you. But I think the nice thing about when you dream for another is their issues aren't your issues. My issues I can't see because they're kind of my reality, my belief system. But when someone dreams for me or I dream for someone, oftentimes their issues come quickly to me, and it's normally in symbols that aren't my particular dream symbols. I just never dream of jaguars and whales. I mean, that's just not part of my thing. But when I have those dreams, then I know, this connects with that person because this isn't my stuff.
And do you feel this is the same as astral projection or different?
No, so a lucid dream, of course, means you realize within a dream you're dreaming, and then you can do whatever you want. But what I tell people, astral projection compared to a lucid dream, it's kind of like a mountain lion compared to a house cat. They're from the same family of feline, but you don't want to live with a mountain lion. I mean, that's you don't want to invite it into your home. So they're similar, but they're not the same. For example, like let's say you have a car accident, and all of a sudden you're floating above the car, and here comes the ambulance, and they're going to get your heart going again, and you see all of that. So in that kind of experience, where is realizing within a dream that you're dreaming? It just doesn't exist. So a lucid dream is different than an astral projection or an out-of-body experience.
Okay, and so now let's get to the books. And folks, first of all, you're going to want to go to Robert's website. It's called lucidadvice.com. And you have so many articles and interviews and interesting stuff up there. So lucidadvice.com. And your two books, Lucid Dreaming, The Gateway to Innerself, and Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. That's the one I have that has the steps. And folks, get the books because there's so much in here that you can't believe, but can you give people a couple of steps to get themselves lucid dreaming?
Right. So first you want to have good dream recall. So the first thing you got to think when you wake up, what was I just dreaming? Because you got to grab it because 30 seconds later it'll just evaporate. So first thing, what was I just dreaming? Then once you got a good dream recall habit going, one thing you can do is just use the power of suggestion. Just before you go to sleep, just focus on one suggestion over and over. Like, tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I see something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I see something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. And all of a sudden, you'll be in the dream. And, here's the Queen Mother walking across the street in a bikini. And you think, wait a second, what's the Queen Mother doing here? And what's she doing in a bikini? She should know better than that. She's whatever. And all of a sudden you go, oh, this is too weird. This is a dream. So sometimes it can just be just that easy, the power of suggestion. And sometimes people tell me that when they hear me talk about it for the first time, that night they're so curious, they just boom, have a lucid dream.
Wow. Yeah. I know sometimes it's like automatic writing. It takes a couple days to get it started. And I like the hand trigger. That sounds really interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Now, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you want to do that, just as you fall asleep or as you're getting ready for bed, just sit in your bed and softly look at your hands while softly saying in your mind, tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight, my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And so in the dream state, your hands might pop right in front of your face, or you might find yourself climbing a ladder and see your hands. But you'll make your hands the trigger that makes you realize, oh, this is a dream. And so that's another great technique.
This may be not exactly lucid dreaming, but this thing about if you die in a dream or if you're falling in a dream and you hit the ground, I think I've done that, but aren't you supposed to be dead? If that was, I don't know what is maybe I am dead. Maybe we're not
no.
here, Robert.
Can you see your feet? You're there.
Well done, Robert. Are there any of those that you think to be true?
No, no. I think these are some old wives' tales because in lucid dreams I've let myself fall and splat on the ground and basically normally you just bounce and there you are. So nothing to worry about there.
And this is totally off topic, but it's my favorite movie. Have you ever seen that that movie, What Dreams May Come?
Yeah, with Robin Williams.
That was my favorite. I guess it's not really about dreams; it's more about the afterlife. But it's about what we create on Earth and then what we create in our heaven. It's just the most beautiful dream ever. Well, I know we're in COVID, and like I said, this is coming out in January. Robert, do you have anything you want to tell people, or where they can see you, or like your website had all those articles and interviews on them? Please let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I keep an updated list of where I'm having either online events or in-person events at lucidadvice.com. And I do get around the world. Hopefully the world will get all restarted here. But I do think we're going to have a changed world. And I want to tell you something strange that happened to me a year or so ago. I became consciously aware in a dream as I was looking at a woman, and she was aware, but the man next to her, like her sidekick, he was still asleep. And she looks at me and she says, 100 years of your time is 1 year to me. And all of a sudden I look at her and think, well, boy, she looks like she's about 35. So she's telling me she's 3,500 years old. Wow. And I think, whoa. And then she said something that really has affected me. And it's something that's I've held with me throughout this COVID thing. She said, I want you to understand that ancient spiritual knowledge is returning to your system. And and she said it again. I want you to understand that ancient spiritual knowledge is returning to your system. And so I know that a lot of us are going through some crazy stuff and we're having ups and downs and the economy is just all wild. But I think when we look back, in 20 or 30 years, we'll say that this was a turning point where something good happened. But at the time, it just looked crazy wild. So,
you just, oh my God, Robert, if the guy wasn't coming to fix the faucet, I'd keep you on another 2 hours, because we have been talking about that. And probably by the time this comes out, we'll be in it. But yeah, I think people are waking up. Ancient spiritual knowledge. I cannot wait to call my animal communicator and demon and tell everyone about that. That's exactly what I think is going on. That's fantastic. Oh my God, what a great dream. And we have to find out her face cream if she's 100 years old. Hopefully that's coming to our dimension too. Robert, thank you so much. What a wonderful, wonderful interview. All right, everyone, it's lucidadvice.com. Robert, thank you again.
Okay, Karen, thank you.
And everybody, thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. And folks, I will see you out in the comedy land, hopefully soon.